Next chapter. Things that turn upside down. That afternoon, Sal brought Colin home after school, and I saw them up ahead of me, taking turns on Colin's skateboard. One would ride and the other would bounce Sal's basketball. They were circling each other and laughing and racing around, and I wanted to be part of it so much that my heart almost broke watching. I decided to stop off at Belle's. Belle picked up the economy jug of chewable vitamin C she kept behind her register and shook it at me. I nodded, and she tipped 4 of them into my hand. "What's up?" she asked. "Not much." "You got some time for the story?" "Sure. Where were we?" "Aunt Beast." "Right. Aunt Beast. So, Aunt Beast's planet is perfect, and it smells great, and the food is wonderful, and everything is soft and comfortable. But Meg can't stay there. She has to go back and save her little brother, and they left him behind with it, remember?" Belle nodded. "So she has to go back by herself?" "Yes, she's the only one that can do it because she's closer to her brother than anyone. It has to be her." Belle nodded. "So she goes there to Camazotz, and her brother is totally under its control, and he's saying all these awful things to her, and it is trying to suck her in too, to take over her brain. She's trying to resist, but it's hard. And then at the last second, she figures out that there's only one thing that can defeat it: love. It doesn't understand love." "Ooh," Belle said, "that's deep." So Meg stands there and thinks about how much she loves her brother, her real brother, not the it brother who was standing there with his mouth hanging open and his eyes twirling. She starts yelling over and over that she loves him, and poof, he becomes himself again. And that's how she saves him. It turns out that it's really simple. Belle surprised me. "Well, it's simple to love someone," she said, "but it's hard to know when you need to say it out loud." For some reason, that made me want to cry. "Anyway," I said, "then they're suddenly back home, and they land in the vegetable garden outside their house, in the broccoli, and that's the end." Now, of course, I couldn't help thinking of what Marcus had said about how if they'd gotten home 5 minutes before they left, they would have seen themselves get back home before they even knew they were going. But it was better not to drag Belle into all of that. "So what's the name of this writer again?" I spelled it out for her. Belle had to ring up a few kids buying their after school junk food, so I wandered around the store. I was thinking about how I would swipe a few grapes, but they looked too old and soft. I took a bottle of chocolate milk out of the refrigerator, checked the date on it, and brought it up to the register with a $5 bill I had taken from Mom's coat pocket that morning. "Weirdest thing," Belle said, taking my 5. "You see that guy out there?" She pointed through her front window and across the street to where the laughing man was pacing back and forth on my corner, doing his kicks. "Yeah?" "Well, check this out." She lifted the plastic tray out of the register drawer and I looked in. It was full of $2 bills. Wavy, bent looking $2 bills. A couple weeks ago, that guy out there suddenly starts coming in every day to get a butter on white and a banana, and he always pays with these $2 bills. I was staring into the drawer. "You want a couple for your change?" Belle asked. I nodded and she handed them to me. "Sorry," she said, smoothing them out. "They're kind of crumpled. He gives them to me all folded up in these triangles, if you can believe it. First time I didn't think it was even real money. I started telling the guy to get lost." My brain was doing that thing where it yells at me. It was yelling, "The laughing man stole Jimmy's Fred Flintstone bank. The laughing man?" "And that guy is loony," said thoughtfully, "but he's also generally polite. Polite is always worth something." When I walked by him a minute later, the laughing man was shaking his fist at the sky and kicking his legs out into the traffic rushing up Amsterdam Avenue. A few cars honked at him, and when he saw me, he pointed and yelled, "Smart kid! Smart kid!" I popped my last 2 vitamin C's and imagined the wrapped in a blanket feeling I'd had when Mom was with me. Then I calmly walked by the laughing man, thinking, yeah, really polite. Colin and Sal were in the lobby making a total racket with a skateboard and basketball, so that at any second Mrs. Bindocker would probably come charging out of her apartment, yelling that they were scaring her cat. "Hey," Colin said when he saw me, "I thought you lived in this building. Want to skate a little?" He picked up his skateboard and held it out to me. I glanced at Sal, who was concentrating on his basketball like the whole concept of bouncing had just been invented and was really amazing and deserving of his full attention. He had developed a way of waving at me without making eye contact. It was kind of like a no-look pass. No thanks, I said. I gotta go. But Colin is Colin, and if he can read a vibe, he never lets on. Hey, can I see your place? He said. We're shooting baskets in the back. Have you been back there? It's cool. Hey, you want to come hang out? I told Colin that my mom was sick upstairs and that I was just rushing home from the store. So you got her chocolate milk? He asked, pointing at the bottle in my hand. Yeah, I headed for the stairs. She loves it. And I sprinted up to the second floor before he could say anything else. When I unlocked the door, our apartment felt like a warm hug. The refrigerator was humming, the light was streaming through the living room windows, and the voice in my head said safe and then got quiet. I went to the kitchen, opened my chocolate milk, and took the last bag of Lay's. Those pregnant jailbirds were out of luck. Then the phone rang. Hello? Have I reached the Sinclair residence? May I please speak with Miranda? I rolled my eyes. Hi, Julia, it's me. And that first time, we only talked for 5 minutes. Julia said her mom had a recipe for a flourless cake that we could make for Anna Marie's birthday. And without knowing whether I really wanted to, I agreed to go over and make a practice cake with her after school the next day. It was dark outside when there was a tap at the door. I sat up on the couch. A tap on the door was a strange thing because everybody rings our doorbell except for Louisa, who always knocks her regular knock. I was afraid. Your notes had done that to me. Another tap. Hello? I called. Silence. I got up and looked out through the peephole. Colin stood there holding his skateboard in front of him like a shield, looking not exactly like himself. I opened the door. What's wrong? He took 2 steps forward and kind of hovered right in front of me for a second, and then he kissed me. And then he stopped and waited, and then I kissed him back, and he smiled and ran down the stairs. There are days when everything changes, and this was one of those days. Things that are sweet. Julia's mother had a whole shelf full of books about cooking. No fat cooking, cooking extra light, skinny cooking. My mom is always on a diet, Julia said, pulling a book off the shelf. And I think she bought this one by mistake. It actually has the word butter in it. She laughed and held out the giant bag of Fritos that she had bought on the way home. I shook my head. I'd eaten too many already. Should we start making the cake? I had to call Mom at work 3 times to ask her questions like how many tablespoons are there in a stick of butter, and is it okay to use a potato peeler to skin an apple? And the 3rd time I called, she said, Hold on, Mira, are you planning to use the oven? Is there an adult in the house? Now, when I said I thought Julia's mother was home, although technically I had not actually seen her, Mom said, But is she watching you? Where is she? Where's your mother? I whispered to Julia. She's meditating, said Julia. Here? Yeah, in the closet. And she absolutely cannot be disturbed. Did you just say your mom's in the closet? Julia looked down at the French pot holder in her hand. It's a walk-in closet, she said quietly. Mom said we couldn't light the oven until Julia's mother came out to supervise us. So we put our clumped together cake batter into the fridge and went to Julia's room to watch TV. Now, Julia's room was like a ruffled version of Anna Marie's. Ruffled curtains, ruffled bedspread, lots of ruffled pillows, and books all over the floor. Some stacked in piles, some worn looking, some brand new, some splayed upside down, some sliding off the pink bedside table next to the lamp with the orange fabric shade. I tried to think of something to say about all of the ruffles. Nice lamp, I said. She put her hands on her hips and looked at the lamp. Really? Because I think it's kind of ugly. My mom picked it. She waved a arm across the room. Yeah, she picked out all this stuff. And she won't let me put up my outer space posters. I had to hang them in my bathroom. She jerked a thumb toward the door. Her own bathroom. Something very familiar caught my eye. and it was on the bedside table under the ugly lamp. It was my book, or maybe it was my book's twin sister, just as old and beat up looking as mine, but with different creases and one corner ripped off of the cover. I went over and picked it up. Yeah, she said, I notice you carry yours around. I leave mine at home. I got a first edition for Christmas. That means it's one of the original. Oh my God, you did? Oh, you are so lucky, she said. All I ever get is clothes and jewelry. I stared at her. I thought you liked that stuff, I said. Well, yeah, actually I do, she smiled. But I like other stuff too. And that was when I noticed her Mysteries of Science poster leaning against the wall. Hers was called Is There Intelligent Life in Outer Space? And her bubble letters were a lot better than mine. She flopped down on her shaggy pink wall-to-wall carpeting, glanced at her digital clock, and reached out automatically to turn on the TV. And I realized that we probably spent our afternoons the exact same way. Except I can at least get my mother on the phone. And Julia's apartment is a lot nicer than ours, but I'm pretty sure that there's no phone in that closet. I stretched out on the rug and rested my head on my arm. Julia looked me up and down. Hey, you know what color your hair is? She asked. My hair? I touched it and made a face. It's brown. She looked at it thoughtfully. No, when you see it in the light, it's really more of a caramel. Caramel. That's where we'll stop for today.